Is the JLP sidelining the councillors and reducing their roles to nothing more than bagmen?
No, no, because the discussions around the road. Let me just quickly say, there are over 22,000 kilometers of road network across the country. The local authorities have responsibility for about 15,000 of those kilometers. The meeting to look at how the program will be administered, that committee is chaired by me. And we have been meeting. The road network is the road network of the local authorities. And it is not going to be left for the mayor or the MP to make that decision on the Spark program. That will be done following consultations with the community, where the community will have an input as to how the roads are fixed. So it is a join-up approach that will be taken using both central and local government in the process to address. This is the first time in the history of Jamaica that any government has been bold enough to come forward with an idea like this. And this is a part of the concept of a government that understands and a government who has been listening to the call of the people as it relates to community roads.
The Sparks program speaks to the central issue within local government, community participation and partnering with community. It's a good example, a good model to look at, because this program will involve not just the MPs and the councillors, but also the residents. So it's really a coordinated effort in terms of making the decision as to which roads will be repaired. And so I think this is a really good model in terms of local government in Jamaica.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for Team JLP. Left some time on the clock there. Team PNP, I invite your rebuttal.
It reminds me of 1986, when the Jamaica Labour Party gutted the roles and responsibility of the People's National Party. It reminds me of 2007, when the Jamaica Labour Party removed local government as a ministry to a department. And to stand here and hear my colleagues supporting the Minister of Local Government, taking away the responsibility again. Yes, your responsibility for us to fix your roads, and giving it to members of parliament to rehabilitate, to reconstruct your community roads. I know the citizens in Newtown Phase 2 who complains every day about Queens Highway. The resolution was done. It was sent to the minister from 2016. But then again, the minister don't believe in local government. And that is why they're giving the money to members of parliament to rehabilitate community roads. $40 billion given to members of parliament. Before that, there was some 40 or nearly $100 million were given to members of parliament to fix community roads.
And it is interesting to note that maybe over 70% of our roadways within our country are community roads. It is a blatant disregard for the local authority and the councillors that serve the local authority and serve you.
Earlier on, the minister spoke to the marginalization of local government. This minister is marginalization.
Thank you, Mr. Swaby. Thank you, Mr. Swaby. I turn to Ramon Gordon again from CVM TV, who's managing our social media platform. You have another question for us, Ramon?
Our final question this evening, George, is from Winston Barrett from Kingston. He asks, why has the KSA allowed illegal vending to overrun residential areas? What are your plans to address this concern?
I invite Team PNP to respond.
I didn't hear the question quite well.
The question concerns why has the KSA-MC allowed illegal vending to overrun residential areas?
That's an interesting question. And it speaks to political will. The mayor wants to be a good guy. He's afraid to take tough decisions. It's all about education there. It's all about having discussion with the vendors. They play a vital role, but you cannot allow vendors to just all over the city. You can zone areas for vending, and we have done that at the KSFC. But what you have done, Mayor, you have put a blind eye to some of these issues that is running down our communities.
What is needed, and it's in the Local Governance Act that needs to be adhered and acted on. It's called the Business Improvement District. And that Business Improvement District is working close with business communities in order to improve the community space in the town centers to facilitate these vendors. In Maypen, we have a similar run of vendors across the town centers, not only in the parish capital, but across the parish. And what we did was to engage the business communities and get them involved in our ideas as it relates to how we can lessen and make it easy for communities to traverse and to do business comfortably and in safety. And what we did, and I can remember this project, where a vendor approached me and said to me, talk to Mr. Tom to use his property to create a business. And what we did was to talk to the property owner, and we did a refurbishing of containers and moved the vendors from the street. And that place is called the Container Arcade. So the PNP has been doing things. The PNP will keep doing things to make it lessen for persons to move around and find spaces with the business community so that these vendors can be able to sell and vend in safety without any encumbrance to the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Barnesworth, for Team PNP. Team JLP, your response?
I just want to say, listening to this argument about vending, and we agree that vending is a problem on the road. How can the PNP speak about vending when markets that were built to facilitate vendors have been leased to a PNP councillor in Yalas for over 21 years, but yet the vendors are allowed to sit at the gate and can't enter the market? You go to White House in Westmoreland, where the market in White House in Westmoreland was leased to a gentleman. He's paying $7,000 a year to the municipal corporation and is renting one shop for $10,000 a month. Little London in Westmoreland, the vendors are on the street while the market is being used to build headstone, to put on tombs. They can't speak about vending because they do not have that moral authority to speak about vending because they have not improved our market district across this country in all the years that they are there. So they have no moral authority to speak on vending.
And it's not true to say that we don't allow vending in residential areas. If once we are notified and we take action, we take enforcement action, it takes time to rid the residential area of the vending practice because it requires a certain level of consistency. So you do it, the vendors go back after 2 weeks, you have to continue again. So it takes some time sometimes. But to say that the mayor is afraid to address the issue of vending, that can't be true. That can't be true.
And BID is not for communities, it's for business districts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We've had so many questions coming through on social media that I'm going to try to squeeze in another one. Ramon, do you have one more for me?
We have one more from Barry S. on Instagram who asks, while urban areas continue to develop rapidly, what considerations are municipal authorities making to ensure sustainable building practices which binds developers to standards such as planning for roads, fiber optics, green spaces, all before construction begins?
I'll ask Team JLP to take that one first.
The building approval process, there are conditions for building approval, and within those conditions, there are some elements that are clearly outlined in the conditions of approval. For one, the rainwater harvesting methods, those have to be in, especially when you're dealing with multi-family developments, those are conditions of approval. So most of what is mentioned in the question are incorporated in the conditions of approval, and we ensure that those are incorporated in the implementation or construction of the building. So I would say those are incorporated in the conditions of approval at the municipality. I would just like to go back to something that was said though, because it's critical. Because what is being said is that the 20 billion or the 40 billion over 2 years will go to members of parliament. And so we are talking about where the money is going and we're not looking at the process. What I hear is a PNP that is willing to eliminate from the process the participation of residents, the participation of the community membership in the decision-making process. The decision-making process is very clear. It says that it will include members of parliament who are elected representatives, councillors who are elected representatives, and the stakeholders, community groupings, and the broader community participation. That is a process. That is a process that is foolproof. That is at the heart of local government. Why would you want to rid the program of that process? So it seems as if you would be very fine and good with it if the money was going through the council or to the councillors for the councillors to make the decision. I find the process is at the heart of what local government ought to be, and I really shun any approach
Thank
that
you,
would
Mr.
want
Williams,
to
for Team
exclude
JLP.
citizens'
Thank
participation.
you, Mr. Williams, for Team JLP. Team PNP, your response to that final social media question.
Quickly, I'm still lost as it relates to the mayor, my councillor colleague, standing there rather, and supporting the councillors not getting a dime to spend in upgrading community roads. But that beat, the people will decide that the JLP is not for local government. But let us look at zoning, the communities development and zoning, green spaces and recreational facility. I must agree with him that you create in the conditions of approval, you would create what is called green spaces, or there should be spaces within the development for recreational activities. There should be spaces within the development for parks. Yes, it's something which we need in our communities, and we realize that where these spaces no longer exist because we do not enforce and make sure that when we give approval for these development, nobody checked to make sure that these things are put in place. So the citizens are shortchanged. Those who spend this money, that large sum of money for these homes, do not have space where their children and themselves can able to have recreational facilities. So we need to look at the Town and Country Planning Act. It needs to be reviewed. It is now, I think, almost 10 years ago since that act was reviewed. And I think the Town and Country Planning Act will be able to help the municipal corporations, will be able to help in terms of how we expand and how we deal with the whole development in our respective town centers. But Minister, 12,000 kilometers of roads, 12,000 kilometers of roads belong to the municipal corporations, not National Works Agency. And again, members, just in responding again to the minister accused us of being ignorant. But let me use a simple analogy. Laws are like the train and regulation is like the truck. So if you don't have the truck, the train cannot move, Minister. And you need to implement those regulations so that the train can move. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barneswell, for Team PNP. I want to take a little bit of time to go back over that question because that last social media question asks specifically, what will you do to bind developers to abide by those rules? And I didn't hear from either side a clear response to that binding aspect. That was the crux. That was the crux of the question, that last social media question. So we go again, and I'd ask the JLP to go first.
I hear my colleague over there talking about the Town and Country Planning Act. I mean, I'm not sure where in council he sits, but there is something called a development order that the developers have to abide by. We also have what we call in some of the municipalities thus far, the local sustainable development plan that tells you where you can develop into what and what you can put in certain areas, light industrial, commercial, residential, you name it. So there is something in place. What we have to do now is to monitor and regulate so that we can have such plans executed in the different spaces. I also want to, go ahead. I also want to say something pertaining to light. They are talking about Power Up Jamaica. They have no authority. They have $7 billion outstanding, and we paid that bill, so we can demand electricity, proper service from JPS.
Thank you, Mr. Vernon, for Team JLP. Team PNP, on the issue of binding developers. I wanted to zero in on that aspect of that very important last question from social media.
In order for us to bind and to hold developers accountable, we need to look at strengthening the staff capacity at the municipal corporations. I said it earlier, and I can't say it any plainer. When we approve these development, the municipal corporation has the right to send its enforcement team, the municipal police, to these locations and bring those developers before the court. Minister Mackenzie is known to be knocking down buildings in Kingston. He knows how to get things done. It surprised me that in Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, They didn't learn anything from him. But with the People's National Party Municipal Corporation, we will get it done by enforcing it.
Thank you, Mr. Barneswell, for Team PNP. All right, so we're at the point of closing statements, and I invite Team JLP to make its closing statement.
Fellow Jamaicans, we are at a critical juncture in the transformation of this country. Jamaica, land we love. We stand here committed to a purpose and committed to making local government the best it can be. We represent a team of local government representatives who are dedicated to the betterment and improvement of the quality of lives of our citizens spread across communities across this country. We have a track record, and our track record speaks for itself. We have implemented several programs that have helped local government and have impacted the lives of citizens across this country. As we speak, there are over 220,000 persons who have never had access to clean water that now have access to clean water, and hundreds of thousands more will have access to clean water as the government continues to roll out its pipeline extension projects and projects relating to the distribution network. We have repaired over 2,500 roadways across this country, and another 2,000 roadways to be added under the Sparks program. We have employed over 64,000 young people under the Youth Employment Program. We have constructed over 200 houses under the Social Housing Program, and is geared to construct another over 500 in the coming budget year. We have purchased and hand over to the NSWMA are over 100 trucks. Our campaign is based on.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, for Team JLP. Thank you very much. The last word in the debate goes to the PNP with its closing statement.
It is good when people believe in their leaders, but it is even better when leaders believe in their people. We believe in you, Jamaica, your capacity, your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations. Local government and community development is about a country's most important resource, its people. Despite what the Jamaica Labour Party has tried to present to you tonight, ask yourself, are you seeing and feeling this development they currently boast about? Our parochial road network is at its worst. Our markets are filthy and lack the necessary sanitary conveniences, despite being a major economic hub in most of our communities. In 2024, there are still many communities seeing catchment tanks and trucking of water as their main source of potable water. Your communities are dark and lack streetlights and are a haven for crime and violence that has also spiraled under this government. Your tax dollars are being used and abused. But time come for change. The People's National Party is dedicated to transforming local government with dedicated and competent representatives and a local authority that is centered around you. Vote for change. Vote for citizen participation, healthy communities, access to critical services, new and innovative thinking, proper garbage collection, and economic development. Vote CHANGE. Vote PNP. Put your X.
Thank you, Ms. Harty.
Beside the
Thank you,
head.
thank you, thank you, thank you, Team PNP. In true Jamaica Debates Commission tradition, I invite all debaters to shake hands. You can clap now. All right, this concludes the series of local government debates facilitated by the Jamaica Debates Commission and presented in association with JN Group, Petrojam, the National Democratic Institute, Lasco Chin Foundation, Pan Jamaica Group, and Miss Birdie. Thanks for joining us. My name is George Davis. Good night.